ABC24 This Week starts right now.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on ABC24 This Week. I am your host, Pepper Baker. You are here for the real stories behind the big stories. And I hope you'll continue to join us every Sunday at 9 a.m., 10:35 p.m., or on the ABC24 streaming app. Today, we are starting off at the main anchor desk because we do have a little surprise for you guys in the second segment. But let's see who is at the table today. First up, we have former Memphis City Council Chair and former Shelby County Schools Board member Scott McCormick. We also have Otis Sanford, the ABC24 political analyst, and we have First Baptist Church Broad Pastor Keith Norman. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
All right, let's get to the topics. We made it through election night, and we are recording this the day after more than 133,000 Shelby Countyans cast their ballots for the county general and state and federal primary election, which turned out to be about a 23% turnout. First, we will focus on all the county general election outcomes. Secondly, we will talk about the state and federal primary race outcomes. And lastly, we'll discuss what's next ahead of the November election. But let's start with the Democrats sweeping the biggest races in the Shelby County general election. So in the Shelby County mayoral race, Democrat Mikkel Lowry coming out victorious with 66% of the vote, defeating Republican John Deberry, who got 34%. In the Shelby County Sheriff's race, Anthony Buckner coming out on top with 70% of the vote over Brad Less, coming in with 30%. And then Shelby County's clerk race, Dr. Lasagna Hall taking the win with 66% of the vote, with Tina Montgomery falling behind at just under 34%, or about 34%. All right, so I'm going to open it up here to Otis. Otis, Democrats are sweeping these three races at least. Was that at all surprising?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Wasn't surprising at all. If you look back over the last several election cycles, Democrats in Shelby County have been flexing their muscles quite handily. And you mentioned the numbers here, but if you go back 4 years ago, each one of the Democrats that you mentioned outpaced, and in some cases far outpaced, Democrats in 2022. Yeah. For example, Lowry did 9 points better than Lee Harris did 4 years ago. Of course, the current Sheriff Bonner was unopposed, or he had independent opposition, so you can't count that. But when you look at Lasagna Hall, she outpaced Wanda Halbert by 17 points from 2022. Wow. This is a clear indication that Democrats are going to continue to flex their muscles locally in countywide races. And that's causing some consternation from Republicans because they don't really know how to counter this other than from legislative action. And we've seen that lately, and we can talk about that a little later.
Well, speaking of that, you know, we saw a lot of contention between Lee Harris, Wanda Halbert, and Sheriff Bonner at times. So now we voters put 3 Democrats still in. So, Scott, I want to ask you here, what will this leadership team have to do to make sure that business is getting done, that Democrats can get along, and that there's more of an effective leadership happening in these positions?
Well, I think they need to govern in a reasonable fashion, and they need to watch the budget and stay within the constraints and come up with ideas of how we need to tackle the challenges in the community and not just cram it down people's throats, but to collaborate with all parties. They need to work with the state. Whether you like it or not, the state is controlled by the Republicans, and they need to understand that there needs to be a collaboration and a working agreement and move us forward. I mean, the biggest thing that we need to do is tackle the issues and solve the problems that Shelby County is facing.
That's true. So, Pastor Norman, your thoughts on this, because I know you're probably close with all 3 of these candidates.
I am. First of all,
congratulations. No longer.
Yeah, they won, and I think it was a great night for Democrats all across. I do have a concern, though, because if we don't govern properly, it's ours to lose. This really began with the Obama election back in 2008, when we began to see all of the Democrats win on a local basis, but that was also when the State House flipped and went in the opposite direction. So what we're going to see right now is our governance be just scrutinized very closely. But there is a strategy, and the Republican Party has began, if you look at this election, to appeal to the African American voter. They've made an effort to recruit African American candidates. Look at the number of African American candidates that they had on the ticket. They had John DeBerry, or DeBerry, however you want to pronounce it, in the race against LaSonia Hall, African American female. And there are efforts to recruit in spaces around Shelby County to broaden the party. And that's going to grow in the years to come in West Tennessee, and especially in Shelby County, if the Republicans want to strengthen. I don't know how effective it's going to be, but it is definitely a concerted effort that they're trying to make.
That's a very interesting point.
But I also think the argument, and I agree with you, and I welcome anyone who wants to come to the Republican Party, but I also think we need to energize our voters. I mean, the overall turnout was 23.35%. I think we had a little challenge on that.
Yeah.
And you know, and in the primary, the Democrats were over 2-1 over the Republicans. Where were all the Republicans? Why didn't they come out and vote? I mean, we had candidates worthy of worth electing. They just didn't show. So, that's a big issue for the party, is how do we energize the voters to come out and vote? And I don't think that the Democrats got this groundswell of voters to come out. I just think that the Republicans didn't come out and vote.
Well, and beyond that, and I hear what you're saying, Keith, but I just don't see where the Republican Party is really putting that much effort in terms of financial support behind these African American Republicans.
Correct.
That's, it's one thing to just put somebody up there because you know that the county is majority African American, so let's put an African American face there with the R. But unless you put some money behind it, I don't see that they put a lot of money behind Miss Montgomery. I don't see that they did a really good job with John DeBerry.
No.
So until they are really serious about broadening their tent and making it more diverse, and of course, diversity, equity, and inclusion is a dirty word with Republicans.
Of course it is.
So until they really put their money where their mouth is, I don't see
It's a moot point. It most certainly is an effort where the wheels are turning, but you're right, they're not greasing the wheels.
Absolutely.
They're not greasing
And
the
I
wheels.
will say the Montgomery point, the messaging was almost non-existent. I went to her social media pages, there wasn't a lot there, but she has experience and, maybe could have gotten that out a little bit.
If she had gotten some money and gotten some Republican help, she could have made it, but the fact is, LaSonia Hall was just a formidable candidate.
Very formidable. You couldn't, no way to beat her.
No way to
beat her.
Putting all the parties aside, all right, just the turnout in the election, 23%.
Yeah.
Right.
The voter turnout, 23%.
Very
We're
good.
electing a mayor, we're electing major offices in our county, and only 23% of the people come out and vote. That's pathetic.
Yeah.
Well, it was 23% in 2022.
I just that it was pathetic in 22.
Well, I agree. But there are a lot of voters, and I talk to a lot of voters, and they look beyond primaries. They see primaries and they say, okay, wake me up when the general election happens.
Right.
But this was a general election.
the
Well,
county.
yeah, but they weren't really. They
saying,
were thinking about what was going on.
You know how you get more people to come out and vote?
How?
Is take away the right for them to vote.
Well, we'll see that with the congressional races.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying.
You're already doing that.
I'm not trying to.
We're
I mean, you take
disenfranchising
away
people
something.
already.
We're doing that already.
They're taking it for granted. I'm talking across the board, Republicans, Democrats. They're taking it for granted of their right to vote, and they're not taking advantage of it. I mean,
Yeah,
you should come out. I'm just
No, that's
totally,
a bad idea.
It's a bad idea.
It was just an.
We're gonna edit that.
Anytime you want to take, anytime you want somebody to
Right there. Edit.
edit that out.
I will say the total registered voters.
I was not suggesting to take away
yes,
people's
yes.
right to vote.
But it was a mic drop moment for a second. 580,401 total registered voters, so 23% is 133,000 of that. So definitely still not very impressive numbers there.
No. Well, I mean, it's impressive that we get people registered.
That's true.
That has
part
been
is
going
true.
up every year. But it's one thing to get them registered. It's one thing to mobilize them to come out, especially in an August election. I predict it will be, and I'm not putting a number on it, but I predict it'll be much higher.
Come on, I could use another barbecue lunch. What do you want to say in November?
I'm not going to say a number, though.
Okay, on that note, we're going to move to the state and federal primaries after the break, and we have a special surprise, so stick around and find out.
Weather Impact Alert Days, watch ABC24. Stream free on your TV or phone.
All right, you all are in for a special treat because we have some advanced technology here to help us with our political coverage, and this is for the state and federal primary races. We'll get into all of them, from the Senate to the governor's race to the congressional districts and even maybe some state House and state Senate races. But Otis and I thought that this particular primary race for Congressional District 5 was quite interesting for the winner. So, Otis, take it away here.
Absolutely. This was the event of the night as far as the primary was concerned. Charlie Hatcher defeating the incumbent, Andy Ogles, pretty handily, in my view. And that sets up an interesting dynamic for November. It's going to be real tough now, tougher for Democrats to take this seat as a result of that. Hatcher has really no negatives that have come out so far, and Ogles had a ton of negatives. Plus, Ogles was endorsed by the president, and so Hatcher still beat him by about 6 points, almost 6 points. This was a good race for Republicans to get Hatcher into the November election.
Absolutely. You talk about endorsements. So, Scott, I want to toss it to you here because Ogles did have President Trump's endorsement, but Hatcher had Governor Bill Lee's endorsement. So are we seeing here where the national influence didn't quite trump the state influence here?
I think it was really more of Ogle's baggage that he had. There was so much on him, and so many things that took place from back when he was the county superintendent or whatever. And Charlie Hatcher just comes across as a good old guy. I said last night, seventh. He's a fourth generation Tennessean and a farmer, and he's just rooted in the community. And I think he didn't have, like as Otis said, he didn't have many issues, that at least none that have been found, and I don't think there are any. And I think he presents himself as a good candidate.
Even with the controversy, we see that Columbia, which is in Maury County, is yellow, meaning it favored Hatcher. We know Ogles has familiarity there. Does that surprise you that it went towards Hatcher's way instead of Ogles?
Not really. I had a feeling that Charlie Hatcher could pull this off, and he did.
Yeah. All right, Pastor Norman, I want to take it to the Democratic side here when we talk about Mulder. And he won, obviously, for the Democratic primary on this side. But to Otis's point, is this a harder battle now that Hatcher is in play?
Well, certainly it's a harder battle because Ogles was a weaker candidate. We wanted Ogles to win on the Democratic side so that Chaz Mulder would have someone that he could really go in and put up the dukes with. Unfortunately, we saw Hatcher come forth, and again, I think it was the Bill Lee effect that got behind him to push him over the top. Chaz can still win this race, though. Big Memphis is a part of this, and that's going to make a huge difference in this district. It's going to push him. Now, all of these voters, we need to see all of the Cooper Suttons and the Hurleys get behind Mulder and push those candidates in that direction. One of the things we haven't seen in recent politics is when people lose, they should step out sometimes and say, I concede, and encourage my voters to go over to support the winner here. We need to see more of that in order for Chaz to win.
Okay, so we did talk about this one. Is there another particular race? I know the governor's race, we're seeing 2 women now front runners, and that's historic. But any other ones that you all particularly thought were of interest?
I thought the governor's race was of interest, and I'll tell you why. I see 43%, which does not say an overwhelming mandate from the Republican Party.
That's right.
We didn't see a 50% threshold. We didn't see a 52% winner here. Right. In previous races, we have, matter of fact, we see more people combined against the winner in the 2 races beneath her than we do for the winner. So I think what we got was a Senator Blackburn, who's going to obviously go in as the lead candidate in a red state. I don't ever want to concede it. But that says something as far as the mandate from the Republican Party, in my opinion.
But will enough Democrats across the state, when we see a Jerry Green as a front runner for the Democratic primary, will there be enough turnout from Democrats to even really go against Senator Blackburn?
Anything can happen in a November surprise.
Another big one, District 9, which now it will be a Taylor versus Pearson. You know, these 2 were front runners in their primaries, but, you know, let's talk about Pearson a little bit, especially with London Lamar. Did we think London Lamar was going to fall so short?
Well, I thought that she would put up a good fight early on, but the energy was just with Justin Pearson. And he's getting a lot of the national attention. I predict that of all the races in Tennessee for November, this one will get most of the national attention. I think Pearson will get a lot of national money as a result of that, and this was going to be a tough fight.
2 quick points. I agree with you on Pearson. The energy with London Lamar with respect to the passing of her grandmother in the course of the last week was hard to overcome, and it was very hard. She ran a good race. You have not seen the last of London Lamar, though, in local politics. Outside of the State House, I believe that she will show up again in local politics here in the city and could be even on the national level.
Okay.
Well, I want you to go to the Republican primary.
All right. Let me know.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. I think Brent Taylor is on a roll. He's got momentum with him, and I think he has been licking his chops that he could get Justin Pearson, and I think he's ready. He's loaded for bear, and he's going to take on Justin, and he's going to give him all he wants.
And I want to shout out Sam Hardiman with the Daily Memphian, who's also a panelist for us. He said, if you are a Brent Taylor, wouldn't you want a Pearson? Because that will make it so polarized that even the moderate Republicans may not feel like they can quite go to a Pearson if they were to vote Democrat.
I think you see a modified version of Pearson in this race. I think Pearson knows that, and I think he's a wise enough candidate to know that he cannot run this race like he ran some of the previous things that he's done, and those sound bites are going to be there, and he'll have to overcome those. But the national sentiment, if you look at what just happened in Michigan, where we have a Democratic socialist who is going to be running forward on the ticket, people are changing their point of view about how they view candidates in their previous antics. Given the person in the White House, I can understand that.
And plus, I just don't think that Taylor, even though he has to go into this race as the favorite, I agree with Scott on that, but he is not particularly well liked in the city of Memphis right now.
Right, but I think that this is where he's going to thrive.
It might be, but that's where the turnout comes in, that it's got to be a heavy turnout in Memphis, because Taylor is seen as part of the problem here of gerrymandering and basically, in his words, stealing the 9th district.
But look at those numbers again. 46.3% of the people did not want him.
That's right.
Only 46% voted for him. So more were against him than for him.
But in this case,
they may have a choice later.
I don't think it was like the Todd Warner votes. I don't think that was a mandate against Taylor. I think Todd Warner is from this area. He's a state rep, and people just wanted to support him. And I think that those votes, now that Taylor is the nominee, that they'll transfer to Brent.
Let me give you a quick political soundbite. Everybody who doesn't vote for you is against you.
All right, on that note, we are going to talk about what's ahead, and this will continue to be in the topic on our third segment. So stick around. We'll be right back.
I said no whammies.
Press Your Luck Thursday on ABC and stream on Hulu.
Well, now that the Shelby County general elections are over and the state and federal races are narrowed down to their party's nominees, what is next? Well, let's hear from the Shelby County mayor-elect and as well as the Shelby County sheriff-elect.
But now I know it's a tremendous responsibility that I don't take lightly. So we're excited about the opportunity. I know we have a lot of challenges that people see, but I see them as opportunities. We got tremendous growth opportunities in our county. I look forward to tackling them head on.
Over the next several weeks and several months, I'll be looking at candidates. I'll be looking at who's going to run our jail, who's going to sit in the second in command for me, to make sure that we have the best talent available, whether it's within Shelby County or within the nation. But leadership is going to be a high and really focus of mine over the next 100 days.
All right, Scott, I want to open it up to you. Out of those two, who has the tougher job ahead?
Oh, Buckner. Oh, yeah. 201 is an animal I wouldn't try to tame or want to tame. There's a lot of issues there. From starting with, what do we do with the facility to the condition of the inmates that are housed in there, and then recruiting people to work there. It's hard to get people to work and want to stay. The conditions are just horrible, and it needs to be addressed. And Godspeed to him.
Yeah, well, they've already signed up and they're going to take those positions. So I want to move now to more of the congressional districts. So Pearson and Brent Taylor are facing off. A lot of people see this as a blockbuster entertainment. So what's next for their campaigns, Pastor Norman?
Well, I think, like I said earlier, we're going to see a moderate Justin Pearson. We're going to see Brent double down on what he has done. Remember, Brent does carry some negatives, and a lot of the things that Brent says and a lot of the things that Brent does, people don't favor that. People in Memphis do not like the decisions that Brent was the cheerleader for in Nashville this year, and the remnants of those things are still in the atmosphere. And so we're going to see some pushback against Brent Taylor.
And Brent Taylor had the president's endorsement, Otis. So, we're seeing that with Andy Ogles as well, and that didn't really favor too well for Ogles. Right. But you talked about the Trump effect. What's that going to be like?
And the Trump effect will be huge here in all of these races, because you can expect Trump to weigh in to now support all the Republicans, including Marsha Blackburn. But as we've seen, Trump's popularity is not what it used to be. And every day, that the Democrats in November are not talking about affordability, which they should be. They need to be talking about Donald Trump. And tying their opponents to Donald Trump because of his unpopularity. And again, when we go to the governor's race, for example, Jerry Green needs to make the point that of all the Republican governors we've had, going all the way back to Lamar Alexander, all of them at least showed somewhat that they cared about Memphis, all of them. Marsha Blackburn has not shown that she cares about Memphis at all. Just the other day on election day, she called Memphis Democrats communists. I think that's going to come back to haunt her. And so I just see a really fierce race here, even though the Republicans have the momentum here.
Scott, how do you think Jerry Green will have to ramp up her fundraising in order to be kind of in competition with Blackburn?
I think her fundraising is basically going to have to come from, as I said last night, some of these PACs, national PACs that want to fund Democrats. She's compared to Marsha Blackburn, she's very low in her funding. Her funding is minuscule compared to Blackburn's. And to cover the state and get your message out requires a lot of money.
Yeah.
I think that, this is Marsha Blackburn's race, but it's her race to lose. So she needs to shore up her vote and make sure that her supporters come out to vote for her.
Yeah. Any last words for the governor's race?
Well, I think it's going to be an exciting race. I think you have 2 females on the ballot. That's, first of all, historical. And so we're going to see a great turnout, but you're also going to see some apathy. And I think it's going to be among male voters. I'll predict that. You can write it down. You can go back and check it out later, and we'll see how it comes out in the end. Congratulations to Buckner and to Lowry, too. I disagree with one point. I think Lowry has the tougher job of the two because everything stops with him as the county mayor, even the jail as an issue. It goes to Buckner, but it's also Lowry's problem, but Lowry has some things that are outside of Buckner's hands.
And Lowry does have to deal with the county commission, so that's another issue.
Yeah, a lot remains to be seen, and we're going to stay on top of it. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for watching. Please be sure to watch ABC24 next week. This week for ABC. What do I say normally? Do y'all remember? Please make
Tune in
next week
for
ABC24
ABC24 this week.
Thank you for watching.